Good evening, Philippines. Good morning, good afternoon, world. Welcome to another interesting episode here at the English Blog. I'm Adrian from Makati City, Philippines.
I'm Christine from Daytona Beach, Florida.
And I'm Sarah from Florida, but living in Italy.
And we are the English Blog team. We are a blog of English teachers, by English teachers, and for English teachers.
We have a very special guest today, our very own TEB member, Sarah Tew, who also happens to be the editor-in-chief of our blogs. You'll hear a lot about her exciting story, from her volunteer experiences in the USA to her teaching experiences in Europe. So stay tuned, you guys.
And at the English Blog, we provide customized lesson plans, curriculum mapping and unit planning services, life and career coaching sessions, weekly vlog and blog content related to ESL education for both schools and ESL-related institutions. If you want to inquire about any of our services, send us a message at www.theenglishblog.com or at the social media handles, which Sarah will enumerate.
Exactly. Even though I'm a guest, doesn't mean I still won't be working here. So yes, you can find the English Blog all across social media. Besides our main website, www.theenglishblog.com, which Adrian mentioned, you can find us on Facebook at English Blog for Teachers, where we premiere our blogs, but we're also on YouTube. You can watch them there. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Just go to our Facebook page or our website, and you can find all of the handles for that. No matter what platform you use, please like, follow, share, subscribe, and talk to us. Let us know what you think of the videos, if you've read any of our articles, and what topics you'd like to see in the future. If you are in Mindanao, the Philippines, you can also listen to us on the radio at 90.5 Good Vibes FM at the same time that we premiere our blogs here on Facebook. So if you're in Mindanao, give us a listen, and all over the world, please give us a watch and a like.
So here comes the first question for Sarah. What made you decide to become an English teacher? And what sorts of qualifications did you need?
So I started as a volunteer tutor in Florida when I was in college. I was probably about 20 years old. And I just started doing it because, one, I wanted to do something to give back to people. And I also just wanted to meet a lot of people that were different from myself. And the Sarasota Literacy Coalition came to my university, and they were recruiting tutors, and they did like a training session. It wasn't a real ESL certification, but it wasn't like they didn't throw you to the wolves. You took the course, and then at the end you decided if you wanted to sign up. And I did, and I had 2 amazing learners in 2 years. And I loved it. It was a really enjoyable experience. I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed getting to know these 2 women as people. And it was really a powerful feeling for me to know that I could help somebody achieve their goal. And yeah, it was like a skill that I had that I said, wow, I don't have too many skills now right here at 20 years old, but this is one that I have that I can actually use now for good. And so that is what kickstarted my teaching career. And I guess I would like to emphasize for any of the organizations out there or people that are into teacher training, please do not undervalue the benefit of those kinds of just basic training for people. It gets people interested, makes it feel like they're learning a real skill. I went on to take kind of a more intense training when I was living in Virginia. I moved after college, and I was still a volunteer tutor, but at a much more robust program, I would say, affiliated with the College of William and Mary. So because it had university affiliation, it had a lot more money and it had a lot more resources. And that was really where I got properly trained to be an English teacher. And I taught group classes as well as individual tutoring. So if you're an organization, really, that is, you'll get so much return, and you will make lifelong tutors, like people like me. I always come back to this when I can. I love to be a volunteer tutor.
And that university she's talking about in Florida is New College of Florida. And when I was a student there with Sarah, little did I know that 10 years later, we would be colleagues here at the English blog and adding value to the ESL community. And especially Sarah, look at you.
Yeah, exactly. I think we met in Calc 1, and now here we are.
Oh, that's true.
Talking about English every week.
Crazy.
Small world.
And small university. There's like 800 people max.
That's true. All right. So for the next question, and thank you for sharing those experiences, Sarah. Where have you taught, and how would you compare those experiences?
So as I mentioned in the last two questions, I taught as a volunteer tutor. I taught adult women individually, one-on-one, in Florida and Virginia, in Sarasota and in Williamsburg, where the College of William and Mary is. At the time I was working, I also worked full-time, and I volunteer tutored at night. And yeah, so I tutored in the US, and then I also, after finishing my job at William and Mary, I moved to France with the program TAPIF, if you know that one. Teaching assistantship program in France. And I think that's the name they use across, not just North America, but worldwide. So yeah, I went to France as an English teacher. I taught in France for a little less than an academic year, maybe I think 8 months. And then a lot of things happened. I had some problems with my visa, so I ultimately got my CELTA, and then I came back to the US, and then the next year I went and moved to Spain, where I was a language assistant in Spain for 2 years. The experiences were very, very different. So to start with, I think the first main difference is in Europe, I worked in high schools and I worked with teenagers. In France, I worked with more older teens, like juniors and seniors. Whereas in Spain, high school, actually, there is no like real middle school. So a lot of the kids, I think the youngest were like 11, turning 12. So I taught all the way there to 18. The biggest difference besides the age was, too, in the US, because it's a native English country, I was teaching a lot of recent immigrants to the US. And my students did have a wide variety of people who were maybe refugees, who had very little education, even in their home country, all the way up to like professional athletes that were in Florida, because you can play golf year round, basically. So yeah, I had a really wide variety of students there. And I think it was really good to have varied experiences early on in my teaching career, because you learn a lot about how to teach different types of people and people with different types of goals. It's different to teach vocational English than it is to sing songs with some kids in a class and make them interested in watching English TV for fun. And then I think more to like extrapolate from that, besides just the practical things you learn by teaching lots of different people, the most important thing you learn is how to find the needs of your students, how to recognize what it is that these people need and want, and how you're going to give it to them. I think that's even more valuable than just the skills, is knowing how to interact with different types of people and understand different types of learners.
Can I just follow through on something you guys mentioned earlier in the first question? So Christine mentioned that 10 years after you guys were classmates in college, you found yourselves working as colleagues here at the English blog. So maybe for the sake of our audiences and our viewers from all over the world, how did you find out about the English blog, and how did Christine recruited you How did she recruit you here to be part of the team?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Christy should answer this because I almost feel like I honestly I just kind of stalked the English blog. I saw it on Christy's personal Facebook page because we're friends, but we haven't been chatting these whole past 10 years. And I saw it, and I had also kind of been toying with the idea of how to do some kind of blog, how to talk about English, but I didn't really want to do it alone. I think it's better to work in a team. And so I saw it and I had trouble subscribing on the page. Now the subscriber button is deactivated because we're still having a problem with it. But yeah, I was the original one that had a problem with it. And so I sent Christine a Facebook message and asked her, what are you doing? And then Christine took it from there.
The stalking was mutual. When I saw that Sarah had subscribed to the English blog, I was like, Sarah, I know her from New College, like 10 something years ago. And I kind of stalked her Facebook page. I saw that she had taught in France and Spain and that she was in a relationship with someone from Italy. I thought this is super cool. She's from the States. She's teaching English in Europe. She would add so much value to the English blog and add to our diversity as a team. I should ask her to be a part of this. And the worst thing that could happen is she will say no. So I gave it a shot. And turns out she said yes. And I was so pleasantly surprised. And here we are today. It's funny how things work out.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
love it. Now my voice is broadcast in the Philippines too.
You've mostly taught young learners. How would you compare teaching young learners with teaching adult learners?
Yeah, so the two are different. But when you're teaching teenagers too, I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, every child is a person. And and that's the core of what they are, is they're a fellow human being. So really try to engage with them as a fellow human being and not as a child. Of course, you want to accept their limitations and their strengths, but you get a lot of mileage, especially with the teens, if they just feel, and if you just treat them like a person, like not quite a peer. I won't go that far, but if you treat them as somebody with valuable ideas and somebody who is in charge of their own life, who's in charge of what they're going to learn, they're right at the cusp of independence and not quite being a child anymore. So I think it's important to give them that space when you can, and it builds a lot of trust, and that way you can get them to do, if especially teens, if they believe that you are sincerely trying to help them, honestly they'll forgive a lot of incompetence too. But if they feel that you really care about them and that you're really trying to help them and you're really trying to work with them, they will reciprocate. They will give you what you give them. So you can get them to study for that annoying exam prep or write an essay for you if they feel that their needs are being heard and that you try to do everything you can for them when you can. When you're teaching adults, I think it's really important. I really love teaching adults one-on-one, to be honest with you, because I think that way you can really get to know somebody as a person. And like when I was a volunteer tutor in Virginia, and to a lesser extent at college, I didn't know anybody in that town. I had no friends, I just saw the people I worked with. And so tutoring English was a way for me to actually just meet people and make friends and be social and be with people. And my learners there are still my friends today, and they're amazing people. And you can learn a lot about life, about yourself, about the world, about people. So yeah, with adult learners, I would say don't be prying into their lives, but don't be afraid to learn about them or to encourage them to kind of really think about themselves and English and their place in the world with and through English. Because not only is that a larger motivator for them, but I think it's also just more fulfilling as a person. It can be, I taught kind of like vocational classes too, like, how to work in the hotel industry, how to be a home health nurse or something like that. And that kind of technical stuff can be really draining, and it can be really dry. But it's a lot better experience for everybody all around when you humanize it. You bring in the people, because that, at the end of the day, you're teaching these people, not the material. You're here to help these people do what they want to do in life. And that is the interesting thing, not how to take somebody's blood pressure. That's the thing, that's the tool that helps you get to the thing you want, which is your life. So I think it's important especially for adults, to keep your focus and help keep their focus on the big picture. It's easy to get bogged down in the minutia, but that isn't what motivates people, and it isn't what is fulfilling as a teacher.
So what I get from this is treat your students as people, not necessarily as peers, but as people. Give them some sense of agency in their learning process, and let them see that you are putting in genuine effort into your teaching, and don't underestimate those little connections that you can make when you're moving to a different country, because they can teach you a lot about yourself and really be advantageous to you when you're, I guess, navigating your way in this foreign land.
It's true. And the more I've taught abroad, the more places you go and the more different types of people you interact with, you realize how small the world is. In Italian, they have a saying, all the world's the same village. And it means everything's the same everywhere. And it is kind of true. People want to connect, and even without fluent Spanish, you can connect with people. Even without fluent English in your classroom, you can connect with people.
Something I was telling Adrian the other day was that we are a lot more universal in our behaviors than we think. And that's pretty cool.
I totally agree.
Okay, so speaking about living in a foreign country, what languages do you speak, and how do you think language learning has made you a better teacher?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I speak French and Spanish and English, obviously, and a little bit of Italian. I'm in the course of learning that. And then at New College, I'm not sure if you knew this, Christine, because I did it later. I studied classical languages, so I don't speak them, but I know Latin and ancient Greek as well. And I think that learning a language, it does some practical things for teaching a language, in that you don't really understand the language learning process until you actually do it and kind of as an adult, or at least when you can be metalinguistically aware. You need to know that you're learning and understand that you're learning and how you're learning. You need to be able to reflect on that. So learning a language, a foreign language, definitely helps you teach a language, especially if you're teaching your native language, like I do, like I teach English. There's a lot of things that you just don't think about because they just come so naturally. But when you've learned a foreign language, you realize, actually, yeah, the English pronunciation of R is really, really particular. And it's hard to get rid of when you're trying to speak French. And it's hard to adapt when you are French. So yeah, you learn some actual practical things, I guess. And you also have just some like a language learning experience. Maybe you have just seen a lot of different teaching techniques, some you liked, some you didn't like. You've been in a language classroom, so it makes you more familiar with the whole kind of setup. The kind of more philosophical thing about speaking multiple languages that I really hope and wish that English learners keep in mind and that English teachers share, because English is like a lot of learners, it's for practical reasons. They're learning English for work. It's, that's why they want to learn English. They would not be learning English unless they needed it for their job. But I think it's important to remember that every language that you learn, I think it changes you. And I mean, I have to do some research on it, but I think it literally changes your brain. It makes connections that weren't there before. It strengthens connections. It's drawing connections not only to your native language, but to memories, to sights, to sounds, to feelings, all of it. It's changing who you are. And it can totally change how I think people, especially people who are monolingual, never really think about how the language that they use every day is a reflection of how their culture thinks. There are words that exist in other languages that don't exist in English, and it's because the idea is important in the culture, and the idea is not important in Anglo-Saxon culture, so we don't have a word for it. Or like the phrasing construction. I love in ancient Greek, there is a special way to talk. They have a special, I don't know, it's not exactly tense, it's not exactly a mood, but you put it on when you're talking to a group of multiple people. So it's like the second person plural, but it changes whether you believe that group actually believes you and likes you versus if you're trying to convince people to do something that they don't want to do. That has two distinct, you can see that when you read some epic poetry, they're doing that. And that tells you, wow. Or, languages that have, English only has the inclusive we includes I, but some languages don't. They have something that's not quite second person plural, but isn't quite me either. It's not quite us. And I think it's really important and interesting to think about that and reflect on your culture and what parts of you are you and what parts of you are your environment.
Pretty interesting stuff, Sarah. Earlier you mentioned something about um, the benefits of a bilingual brain. I believe TED Education video actually has a video of that same title, Benefits of a Bilingual Brain. And I think it's about like 3 to 5 minutes. So for you guys who are watching this, go check out that video. And earlier you also mentioned something about when you help a person learn English, you help them do their jobs. And for me, when I teach the same, either English or Tagalog, to foreigners who are here in the Philippines, I feel like I'm opening up a whole new world for them to explore. And because they now have the language to understand and to communicate with, they're able to enjoy the fullness of that world with them in it. So it's just interesting to learn the language. And you have shared with us so many interesting trivia about the Anglo-Saxon and other languages out there. Well, we've come to the last question for this episode. What advice would you give to newcomers who want to get their foot on the door?
My advice to everybody who is contemplating teaching English or also just teaching any native language, I guess I would say, is to seek out volunteer opportunities, especially if you are in an English speaking country, whether or not you're a native speaker. You don't have to be a native speaker to teach English. It's a topic for another day. But especially if you're in an English speaking country, there are tons and tons of charities and organizations, even small towns in the US, lots of places where I took my CELTA. You have these organizations, these literacy organizations, and that's a great place to start teaching. And like I said, and I hope that the organizations out there hear me and hear my thank you for all the training that you gave me at the beginning. that is very basic, but it's so necessary and it's free. As a volunteer tutor, you have access to all kinds of courses and knowledge from teachers who are more experienced than you. So I would definitely say take advantage of that. Start out volunteer teaching because you can kind of control your commitment level. If you find that it is something that's for you, I cannot recommend the teaching abroad assistantships enough. There's a whole blog article that I wrote where I collected them all together. They're not just for Americans. They're open worldwide. So yeah, take a look at that article. I'll link it in the comments. And yeah, usually you can find out about those from your country's Department of Education or Ministry of Education. So investigate that. Those are really, really sweet gigs, especially if you can come to Europe, because you don't work a lot. It's mostly 12 to 15 hours a week. You always have at least one day off. And you have so much vacation because it's a cultural exchange too. So your job is also, you're there to teach English. You're there to introduce children to an English native speaker person who's not from their country. But you're also there to experience the culture and to travel. And so they pay well. You can totally come and have a nice life. And they're short-term contracts. That I think is a good bridge step, because it's a little bit more legit or more like classroom teaching than just being a one-on-one volunteer tutor, which is usually what the volunteer tutoring is. So you get experience working with other teachers, working in a classroom, managing kids, managing like classroom discipline, like the parts of teaching that have nothing to do with speaking English. You'll also learn what you need to know by watching the more experienced teachers. You'll understand where the gaps in your knowledge are. And if teaching is something that you like, then I would recommend take the next step and look for a certification. But you don't need a certification to do these programs at all. They're just for mobility and exposing kids to different cultures. So if you like it, then take it a step further. And by that time, you'll know kind of what areas are lacking, what you're really good at. Maybe you'll even know what kinds of people you like teaching the most. And then you can take it from there. And of course, check out all the resources from the English blog, because we are here for all teachers, including new teachers and veteran teachers. And yeah, no matter who you are, let us know. If you're a new teacher and you have more questions about how to get started, just send us a message and we'll let you know.
Wow, those language assistantships sound amazing. You get literally the best of every world. High pay, time off, valuable experiences as a teacher. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And if, like Sarah said, we have resources that refer to these language assistantships in our blog as well as in our vlogs. We've mentioned them a few times. And for those of you who are interested in teaching English, I know the majority of our viewers are in the Philippines, but I also know that we have viewers from countries like Singapore, India, the United States, where English is either considered an official language or it is widely spoken. So there are definitely a plethora of opportunities for you to maybe volunteer as an English teacher or even find a paid teaching position. And then for those of you who are not in English speaking countries, as Sarah said, there are lots of opportunities out there. I mean, hey, we're living in a digital society now, and then you have language assistantships.
Yeah, I will say for people who want to use English or help people teach English in non-native countries, check out like refugee organizations, because at least here in Europe, a lot of people actually speak English and they're here, they've moved to Italy, they don't speak Italian, but they speak English, and they need it. It helps them so much to just be able to communicate. And especially if you already know, if you know the language of this new country, you can help be a liaison, even if you're not exactly an English teacher. You can still help people and learn a lot about teaching just by helping people and meeting people of different cultures and situations.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
There you have it, guys. We have featured one of our own, one of the best people in the English blog team. We're just amazed at her professionalism. She does the editing of all of our articles on our website, and she really does an amazing job in that aspect. So if you
Thank
guys have
you.
additional questions for Sarah, please leave it in the comment section. Or if it in any way at all that you can relate to what she has shared in her experience in France, in Italy, in Spain, please share with us in the comment section as well. And don't forget, we provide customized lesson plans, curriculum planning, curriculum mapping and unit planning services, life and career coaching sessions, weekly vlog and blog content related to ESL education. And for more information, you can visit our website at www.theenglishblog.com.
It was absolutely wonderful to talk to you all today, and the conversation doesn't have to stop now. We can continue all across social media. You might be watching this vlog on Facebook at the English Blog for Teachers. You could be listening on 90.5 FM in Mindanao, or you could be on our website or our YouTube page. No matter where you are, please drop us a line. Let us know what you think of the vlog. Let me know if you have any other questions for me or any similar experiences. And I am always on the hunt for interesting assistantship opportunities. So especially if you have, if you've heard of any or you have any experience with any of those, please let me know, because that is a big area of interest for me. Thank you guys so much for listening. It was a pleasure to talk to you all and share my story.
So until next time, fellow teachers, lifelong learners, my name is Adrian from Makati City, Philippines.
I'm Christine from Daytona Beach, Florida.
And I'm Sarah, and now you know so much more about me.
That's right.
And we are the English Blog team saying, keep learning, stay healthy and happy, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.